Hi, my name is Steve, and this is the Life and Sad Ending channel. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the famous actor Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy was born on April 5th, 1900 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As a kid, Spencer Tracy went to Catholic school, and he was kind of a bored kid in school. He didn't enjoy it much. I think today they would have called him a difficult child. He skipped school a lot, and oftentimes if they looked for him, they could have found him at the local movie theater where he would go and watch the same movie over and over and over again. He loved the movies. Tracy later attended Marquette Academy, and he and a friend and fellow classmate Pat O'Brien quit school to enlist in the Navy during World War I. Tracy was still at the Norfolk Navy Yard in Virginia when he was discharged at the end of the war in 1919. As I said earlier, Pat O'Brien went to school with him, and after the war, they ended up going to New York where Pat O'Brien roomed with him, and they tried to get work in shows and on Broadway. Spencer Tracy actually got parts in a couple of George M. Cohan stage productions on Broadway in the 20s. But his big break on Broadway was being in the play The Last Mile. And while he was in that, he was spotted by the famous director John Ford, who wanted him to come out to Hollywood to do pictures. He put him in a movie with Humphrey Bogart called Up the River. After that, Spencer Tracy worked for Fox Studios for several years, but though he had regular work, he never really became a star. And that didn't happen until he got signed by MGM. While at MGM, he became a household name and a star. He was in movies like San Francisco with Clark Gable. Also, later he made Boomtown with Gable. He was in Test Pilot in 1938. Northwest Passage, A Guy Named Joe, the horror film Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In the 50s, Father of the Bride, and in 1958, The Old Man and the Sea. Spencer Tracy married Louise Tracy in 1923. They had met in the theater. They had two children, John Tracy and Susie Tracy. But Louise and Spencer had separated by the 1930s. Spencer Tracy was sort of had a wandering eye with the ladies. They permanently split up, I think, in the 1940s, but they stayed married. And I think this was mostly due to Spencer Tracy's Catholic beliefs. But all through the years, they remained legally married. And during those years, Spencer Tracy had a lot of affairs with other actresses like Joan Crawford, Ingrid Bergman, and Myrna Loy. And I read about Myrna Loy was really infatuated with Tracy, and she was really upset that he was taken away from her by Katharine Hepburn. Tracy met Katharine Hepburn when they did their first movie together called Woman of the Year. Also, Spencer Tracy had problems with being an alcoholic, and they say he was a really belligerent drunk. And though he was a mean drunk, he was a great actor and had a work ethic. He won 2 consecutive Oscars for Captain's Courageous and Boys Town, and that was in 1937 and 1938. So Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn had a long relationship all the way up until his death. They made like 9 pictures together, including Without Love, Sea of Grass, State of the Union, The Desk Set, and the last film that Spencer Tracy was ever in was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. All this time, though, their relationship was kept a secret because Spencer Tracy was still married, and they didn't want the gossip to get out, although it was common knowledge in Hollywood at the time. Spencer did make a couple of interesting movies during the early 1960s. He did Judgment at Nuremberg, Inherit the Wind, and one of my favorites, the comedy, It's a Mad World. That's a great film. By the time Spencer Tracy was set to do the film Who's Coming to Dinner in 1967, it was somewhat hard for the studio and production company to get him insured because, if somebody dies during the production of a film, that would cost a lot of money to refilm those scenes. But they did get it done, and he completed the picture, but unfortunately, he died only 17 days after filming that movie. He was living with Katharine Hepburn at the time in an apartment, and he had got up in the middle of the night to go get some tea, and she said she heard a loud thud, and when she went out into the kitchen, naturally, he was laying on the floor, and he had died of a heart attack. That was on June 10th, 1967, and he was only 67 years old. Now, publicly, she wasn't there. It was reported that his housekeeper found him, but she actually did, and she wasn't even able to go to the funeral. She said her goodbyes at the mortuary, I believe, or at the funeral home when no one else was there. and she didn't want to cause a big spectacle at the funeral or anything like that. Spencer Tracy was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale. What was your favorite Spencer Tracy film? Do you even remember Spencer Tracy? We may have some young viewers here. As always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again next time, unless I come to my own sad ending.